And I mean, just about this sort of infection within the intelligence agencies, we've heard an awful lot about people complaining that these groups have moved away from some of their core missions here. And now there have been reports on CNN that at the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, there is now concern that disgruntled employees may potentially leak government secrets to hostile governments here. Now, I mean, it seems like if they want to protect America, and if that's what this is really about, that's the last thing I'd be doing here. The optics of this, to say nothing of the implications, are downright bizarre.
Yeah, well, I think you're making an assumption that folks are doing what's best for America or what's better for Trump's America.
Well, I was trying to be generous, but
exactly. There's a lot of people in the federal government that really, really, really don't like Donald Trump. This is not new. Go back to Page and Strzok during the first administration, but even before the first administration, that they had an insurance policy that made sure Donald Trump wouldn't be president. Again, it's not new. What's new now is just the scope of it, the depth of it, and the fact that the Trump team is actually going in now with the goal of exposing it. We didn't do this in 2017. We thought it was real, but we weren't really nearly as well prepared in 2017 as the team is right now. You've got folks like Kash Patel and Pam Bondi who are going in on the first day at the FBI, on the first day at the DOJ, and say, okay, let's root out the deep state. We didn't do that in 2017, and I'm glad to see that it's taking place.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think probably we all are about that. Well, except for maybe some of these people who've been involved in some of this strange stuff. I want to move on, though, to that first cabinet meeting that Trump just held. And some of the talk now about tariffs, and saying now that he's going to release details of the latest tariffs on the EU, but confirm that this is going to be 25%. Now, I'm just curious here, what are your thoughts on this? The EU has said they're going to respond to this. Are we in a new era of trade wars, or is this tariff threat part of a broader, Trump, how he works, negotiating strategy to get more product into Europe?
Yeah, I was just down in Canberra last week speaking to a group and got the same question. This is how I explained it to them, which is there's a bunch of tariffs mean a bunch of different things to Donald Trump. There's some tariffs that are sort of designed to rein in China. You put that in one bucket. There's some tariffs that are designed to protect domestic industries. That's the steel and aluminum thing that's obviously touching on Australia right now. And then there's that third box of tariffs, and that's the ones you think you're dealing with the EU, Canada, and Mexico, which is sort of like, look, this is a negotiating tool. Are they real? Absolutely. But I do think that these sorts of discussions about these tariffs on Canada, Mexico, the EU, for example, are more of a negotiating tool. He's absolutely serious about putting them in if he doesn't get a deal he thinks is worthwhile. But I don't think this is the type of thing that impacts on China or domestic steel and aluminum production, because those last two things are probably going to stick around regardless of what happens.
And what do you make, just while you mentioned Australia, what do you make of the prospects for Australia getting a bit of a pass on this?
Yeah, the facts and circumstances are the same as they were in 2017, 2018. Trump threatened to put tariffs on Australian steel and aluminum. And then when the facts came out, which is that you make stuff down there that we don't, in fact, in large part can't make here, the fact that what you make is consumed in large part by our Defense Department, all those facts are still the same. Australia got an exemption in 2017, 2018. I fully expect they'll get a full or a partial exemption here again, because the reasons the exemptions went in place 8 years ago still apply today.
Yeah, fair enough. Finally, there was also a meeting today at the White House with UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. What did you make of what came out of that? I thought it was fascinating watching the body language between the two men. I thought Keir Starmer was trying to be very, very jolly through the whole thing, but I got a real air of kind of nervousness. What did you pick up out of this?
Yeah, it was better than I thought. Those things are really, they're heavily scheduled, they're heavily choreographed. Of course, nothing with Trump is entirely choreographed. And I think you're right. This is Keir Starmer's, I believe, his first face-to-face. And, look, Keir Starmer has said some awful things about Donald Trump in the past. Members of his government have said some awful things about Donald Trump. But I got to tell you, James, I think the meeting went fairly well. Trump came out of the meeting optimistic about a U.S.-UK free trade agreement, which was news to a lot of people here in this country. And I certainly imagine the same was the true in the UK. Clearly, the Brits have done some good work to sort of smooth things out with President Trump. I thought this meeting went much smoother, for example, than the meeting with Emmanuel Macron earlier the week. It's clear that Donald Trump sort of likes Keir Starmer and really, really doesn't like Emmanuel Macron. And knowing both the men, I can see exactly how that might happen.
Fair enough. And a friend of mine texted me during that meeting and said, you just know Keir Starmer's going to finish off the better part of a bottle of scotch after that one there. Mick Mulvaney, thanks as always for joining me here.